Good morning and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing on Monday, August 4th. I'm Chris Jack and I'm joined by Stevie Clifford. Stevie, it's a fairly silly question to ask you first and foremost. How are we?
Wonderful. We always get the good shifts, don't we? So I'd like to applaud though, Chris. Bang on, starting at 9:30. You sent me an agenda and everything last night. Don't get that when Derek's on.
Well,
So, professionalism all the way.
I run a tight ship, as they say. Let's not mention the other side of that because that's what Rangers are running right now. No, it's been an interesting weekend, but as you mentioned there, Derek is off for the week. Joshua is off today because it's his birthday, and I'm heading out to the training ground later on for the press conference. A late start today. Russell Martin not speaking to the media until 4 o'clock. Player at the back of 4, and training is 5:45 tonight. Plzen, if you're interested in that kind of thing, they are 6 o'clock at Ibrox for the presser, and I think about 6:30, 5:45 for the training access. So a long day, a few hours yet until we hear from Russell Martin and hear from what he's made of the last 48 hours or so. But we've certainly got plenty to get into, Stevie. You were at Fir Park on Saturday, first game of the season. What did you make of
it? Straight in with the loaded questions. What did I make of it? I thought it was awful. Dreadful, whatever way you want to look at it. I thought we were fine in the first 15 and created a few openings. We had a really good move. Gassama pulled one wide. Raskin had a header from the weekend from a corner. Danny hit the bar from a shot outside, and then we eventually take the lead, and you're thinking, right, this is fine, this is looking okay, and then that was it. Everyone stopped dead. A lot of very poor performances throughout the team, but the kind of play that we've been promised, this dominating, fast attacking football, just never arrived. Created absolutely next to nothing. Front line weren't involved in it. Midfield was all at sea, and we were reduced to hanging on against a Motherwell side that done things better than what we were apparently told we were going to be doing. So some of our press was awful, and it was just a really, really bad performance, and one that had a hint of inevitability about it. Especially when the second half started, you could tell that was coming a mile off, Chris. So Russell Martin described it as being one and a performance that hurt him. Well, it hurt the thousands that were in the away end as well, and it was absolutely dreadful. It really was. It was a flashback to things that we've seen before, but there's a lot of context to it with regards to individuals and how they performed, and I'm glad he came out and said what he did, but as we're going to discuss, Chris, words are cheap. So, I'm a bit sick of listening to players say that this is a wake-up call. And how many wake-up calls do you need at Rangers Football Club? This is a wake-up call. Have you been sleeping for the last 3 years? You might have been in and out on loan and stuff like that. That's fine, but this shouldn't be news to any of them, And then captain disappointed as per usual. Yeah, it was poor, and I've had enough, Chris. That's why there's such a ferocious backlash at full time to these players, because they are absolutely sick of abject failure in that away end. And I agree with them. I agree with absolutely everything that they were saying. And it's now turned towards quite a ferocious hatred for a few of them. So the Rangers need to get their finger out fast under Russell Martin. And I get what he's saying, and his words were strong and things like that, but there's a lot of things that he's doing that are confusing me as well. So I'm in no mood for kind of, sentiment, and it'll take time. When Motherwell can pass the ball out better than we can in 5-6 weeks that they've had their manager, and they can press and they can activate an attack and look a lot more dangerous than we can. And fair play to them. Absolutely no criticism of Motherwell. They deserved a point. In truth, Chris, they deserve 3. They should have beat us 3-4-1 in that second half alone. But this is a Rangers podcast, and we look at it from our point of view, and we were gut-wrenchingly awful. And a wake-up call shouldn't need to be a wake-up call. Where have they been? This isn't suddenly a surprise. the pressures at Rangers Football Club. So no, I'm less than impressed with what I saw on Saturday for sure.
Well, as I get on to the transfer news over the weekend and a bit of positive news that we'll be able to bring you on the site over and on the show over the last couple of days in terms of Oliver Antman and where Rangers are at. But I think the news of that signing, when we broke it on Saturday before the game, it felt there was a real buzz around the support. I see the social media comments, you speak to other people, you're getting WhatsApps and stuff through. And it felt as if, well, Rangers are going to go and win today. They've got another new signing coming in. This is really good. When we reported last night that the deal was done and everything was in place, it was almost a bit shrug of the shoulders because Motherwell on Saturday, it follows Hearts last year, it followed Kelly before that. It just bursts the balloon. It just takes so much enthusiasm and excitement out of the support, and that's as the previous managers have shown, as previous squads have shown, that's hard to win back. A lot of people already flipping it onto Tuesday. What will we see team selection wise? What will we see reaction wise from the manager and the players? If Tuesday night doesn't go well, Rangers are in a situation already two games into the season where there's a lot of pressure on them, and people will already just write them off. Now it'd be silly to do so. I said 2 games into the season, or obviously 4 after Panathinaikos, but there's a lot riding on Tuesday night already, Stevie.
Yeah, and there's certain percentage of the fan base that have been waiting to sharpen their tools towards Russell Martin since he arrived, and I think the problem is that's very hard to argue against, because all of the issues that we worried about and those that didn't want Russell Martin pointed to Saturday's performance as being exactly where we would be. And, this is Rangers. It's a very unforgiving atmosphere and environment. And you know what, Chris? Sometimes it's needed and sometimes it's deserved. And we've been patient, and they were given all the credit in the world after Panathinaikos, which, nobody really thought we were ready for. But with all due respect, we should have been ready, not necessarily to win on Saturday. It's not even about that. There's no entitlement here from myself, but we are, and we should be in a position where we can see a better performance, not only individually, but collectively. And if you can't pass the ball and beat a press, and there's players actively, I thought the self-preservation comment from Russell Martin was spot on, but I've got a feeling that it was aimed at players that we might really like and really want it to, and not the ones that we necessarily are thinking about. So that's the issue that I've got there. But, we deserve better in terms of attitude and application towards it. If they had played really well and not won, you could have accepted that. But there was absolutely nothing. And I remember turning, I was speaking to Jim in that 5 minutes into the second half and saying, we have just not started here at all. I think Motherwell had a free header at the back post, and then within about 5 minutes, they had a save from Butland. Suter had blocked it on the line. They had a free header again at the back post. And it was all becoming last-ditch panic defending from Rangers, because the midfield was absolutely nowhere. And I've seen people criticise the defence. I thought defensively we actually defended again pretty well in terms of siege mentality. But why is it getting to the point that we're having to block things and it's last minute, last ditch, panic defending, because we are wide open, Chris. And I think the stat-wise, shot-wise, we've had 40 shots conceded in 3 games when you take Pana over the 2 legs. I think it was something like 11, 12, and 17 is where it kind of stands. And then big chances, 11 big chances in 3 games. 11. Motherwell had 5 big chances stat-wise on Saturday. And you can look, stats are for certain people, but I think they give you an insight. Mm-hmm. Chris, our XG on Saturday was 0.7. From open play, it was 0.23. And I've heard people criticise our 9s, and you talk about Dessers, you talk about Danilo especially. What are we creating for this, guys? The answer is absolutely 0. Over the 3 games, Panathinaikos twice and Motherwell, we have created 0 opportunity for our 9s. 0. The only chance that we had really created for them was Dessers running through in the last couple of minutes of Panathinaikos. There is fundamental things wrong with how we're set up and tactically how we're playing. You can blame mentality and performance-wise and not doing what they're told. I get all that. But at some point as well, you have to say we're far too wide open. We're not creative enough. Individually, we're not thriving and performing as well as we should be. And that's on Russell Martin as much as it's on the individual players as well. So I like Russell Martin. I really want him to succeed. But the fear of him coming was inevitably that we would see more things like Saturday. And it's miles away from being good enough.
You mentioned the manager's post-match comments there. Myself and Josh were live on the show after the game on Saturday, and those comments were coming through. We managed to bring a wee clip from the press conference. I thought his interview was really interesting. It's unusual, to say the least, to see a manager go that strong against his players this early in the season, 90 minutes into the Premiership, and you've already got the manager having really big questions about his players and his team. One of the comments that I'll pick out, where he said it wasn't him digging them out, he takes full responsibility, but he was hurt by what he saw, and he said the problem should be tactical, it shouldn't be mentality. So we have too many guys that slip into self-preservation mode, and I think that's been a factor in this club for the last few years for sure. So when it's going well, you're all in. You want to run, you want the ball, it's nice. But when it's not going well, you don't want to run so much. You pick and choose when to run. You pick and choose when you want to compete and mark your player from a throw-in or a corner. You pick and choose when to run back, and it's unacceptable for this football club. I think in that sense, he won't get many people that will disagree with him, because those questions, those concerns, they've been raised with a number of players, with a number of aspects of this squad over a number of seasons. So I think he'll get a bit of buy-in. I think he should get a bit of credit for being as honest there. But as you said, I don't think it's a case of it was just mentality. You look at how easily Motherwell were able to play through Rangers. Now, you mentioned a number of chances that they had to Motherwell created there. It wasn't a case of mentality cost Rangers that game. For me, there's a balance to be struck between mentality did cost them, but so did the setup, and so did the starting lineup. Where do you stand on that balance? Where does the blame lie, if you like, in terms of tactics and mentality?
I'll start on what he said first of all, and he's right, because we've had these conversations for a very long time under various squads for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Even under Gerrard's time, the first couple of years, we had the same conversations about mentality and everything else. But this shouldn't be a surprise to Russell Martin. He was told on day one, and it shouldn't be an issue in terms of what he's doing. But he's also the one that's picking James Tavernier. He's also the one that's completely shoehorning players in, and then they're visibly uncomfortable on the pitch, and you can see it a mile off. Max Aarons is not comfortable at left back. John Souttar is not comfortable at left side. And John Souttar can defend, and defensively he's been fine. But on the ball, positional wise and stuff like that, he is miles away from being where he should be. And this isn't a new thing with John Souttar, because we had it with Philippe Clement when he tried to play him on the left side. And then you go further forward, Chris. Kieran Dowell sucks the life out of that whole team. And you can talk about players not wanting to run. I watched him visibly give up several times at the weekend when the big left back was running at him, to eventually scored, in which James Tavernier and Kieran Dowell once again cost Rangers with abject defending. It's the story of Rangers Football Club for James Tavernier. Cost us a goal, scored a goal. He does it all the time. That boy should never have been able to progress, Chris, the way he did at the time. He ran through both of them. And I don't mean through skill. He just barged his way through them both. Take them down, take a foul, do anything you can to stop that. Or just use a wee bit of strength. They didn't do anything. And this all comes down tactically to Russell Martin putting them in that system that they're blatantly not comfortable. Diamande and Raskin, blatantly not comfortable either. Raskin especially. And I've got a feeling that when he talks about ego and self-preservation and stuff, they're the ones that it's aimed at. It's not aimed at the guys that we might want it to be aimed at. It's aimed at them. But the default comments and slipping back and everything else, you're the one that kept the captain. You're the one that selected him. You're the one that he's the figurehead for everything. And that might not be fair, and people might not see it that way. It's certainly how the fans felt it. on Saturday walking out of our park, because I heard it. And I had loads of them saying to me, go and get him told, go and tell him, go and this. It's the same feeling, Chris, that's been there for several years. And you can blame mentality and you can blame everything else, but that shape and the way the team is set up is completely lopsided. It's completely uncomfortable. And it's been, how am I going to phrase this with being polite? It's been coming because we've seen it happen now. And it's persisted with it. And I get it's a means to an end. I really do. I get it's a means to an end, and I understand all that. But you can't come out and criticise everybody and then not accept your part in it as well. Our nines are ostracised in our team. We're not getting them the ball. We're not creating. We're not doing anything. And that counts for Cyril as much as it does for Danny. He played 45 against Middlesbrough and touched the ball 2 or 3 times. So absolutely nothing created for him. The wingers aren't getting into the game properly because when you go to one side, it immediately comes back and they're not trusting the person that's there. There's nothing from midfield in this system. Raskin is blatantly uncomfortable. You've seen him go in the first 15 minutes or so down the left-hand side a few times. He's no left foot to cross it in. Why are we playing people on the wrong side just to try and protect our fullbacks because you're having to shoehorn a right back who was signed from the Premiership in at left back so that the captain can continue to play? It's wrong, Chris. And when you look at how we are set up and the results that come from it, that's why. And this isn't all, James Tavernier's issue and John Suter, Kieran Dowell, etc., etc. But don't play these guys and then be surprised by what happens, because this isn't a new movie. We've seen it for years and years and years. And that's why you get such a ferocious reaction on Saturday, because we're all fed up.
A couple of comments can sum that up quite well. Ewan here talking about the main issue being those players that are playing at a position, and it's why that's not working. Drew, touching on the point that you made about Nico Rask, I think he's certainly a talking point heading into Tuesday night. Pacer there saying it'd be interesting to see the team. And this one from Stephen agreeing with you, saying that the Rangers are only one misplaced pass or unsuccessful drill away from being in danger. That's new territory for us, and that's on Russell Martin. And I think we both agree with that. So yes, you can question mentality, you can question guys running and throwing their bodies on the line and basically doing the basics and doing what every manager and certainly every Rangers manager should expect. But we spoke a lot about Russell Martin's style of play and how he sees it, how he wants the game to look. He doesn't right now, for me, doesn't have the players that he needs to operate this system successfully. So the question should be, while he doesn't have the players, while you're waiting for Asgard to get fit, while you're waiting for Moore and Mann and maybe a number 9 to come in, while you're waiting for a new left centre half and a new left back, do you persist with it? And as you say, shoehorning guys into positions where they're not comfortable. Come Tuesday night, how many changes would you like to see, and how many changes do you expect to see? I don't think there'll be as many as people are calling for. I don't think you'll see a rip it up start again here.
Well, that's the problem then, Chris, because everybody will just put his comments on Saturday down to being wind and noise again. And we've heard it for years. People want change. They want to actively see players getting dropped because they're not performing. I would much rather go with a weaker 11 on paper than reward the same guys that continually fail. See, on Tuesday night, genuinely, I'd make 5 changes. And I would go with potentially weaker players in positions that they're more comfortable in. I would start Jeffy at left back and put Aarons at right back immediately. And I think that would make the world of difference. I would probably have to persist with John Suter because John and Giga have defended well. But I would be taking Raskin and Diamandi out of there. I would be taking Kieran Dowell out of there and setting him up in the stand, never to be seen again. I would be doing something with my 9 as well. There's so many things you could be doing. And I don't necessarily mean taking Raskin and Diamandi out of it, but I would swap them. Something's not right in there. That's not working. And it's clearly not working. We need to get Danny involved in the game if he's going to be our 9. I wouldn't necessarily start Cyril because I don't think he's anywhere near it either. I would be wanting Eagleman and back in and fit at some point. But it's all buts and maybes. But the issue that Russell Martin has come out, because he slated them, And that was pretty much scorched earth from Russell Martin on Saturday. If he sits and we go again and we turn up and we see Kieran Dowell and we see James Tavernier and Max Haynes at left back, people are just going to be fed up from the word go. And as soon as those passes become misplaced and we get broke on and stuff like that, and I'll go back to the boy's comment because he's spot on, Rangers are losing it in positions, Chris, where it's one pass it takes to turn our whole team. And not only are you turning the team, you're past our midfield before you're running on essentially 2 or 3 defenders. And that's why it's so last ditch all the time, because when we lose it, our midfielders are so wide, try to cause overloads and get that. But they're staying out there. So when they're supposed to be getting back and things like that, it's not happening. Literally not happening. Too many players, and we've seen it the other night, we've seen it again, are jogging back at times. And it's not working. And it's all in front of plain sight. And yes, look, I'll come on here and it's pretty obvious that I don't like certain players and that I don't think certain players are helping. But that's not only my opinion, because I heard it from thousands of people on Saturday saying the same thing also. And let's call a spade a spade. People don't want James Tavernier starting at right back. There might be a small minority that do. They don't want him. They don't want Kieran Dowell playing on the wing. They don't want Raskin and Diamande on wrong sides. And they don't want a forward line that's stifled, that's not getting anything. It's not difficult to see what the fans want, Chris, because they're sick of a continued failure. And you can talk about James Tavernier and it's not fair and he scored our goal and stuff like that. And yeah, it's great. Look at the defending. People are fed up. I'm fed up of coming on here and trying to defend James Tavernier and talk about it and everything else, because the attitude and the atmosphere. Chris, even after that boy got past, he turned his back and it's half-hearted. And how many times do we have to see it before we give up? It's soul-destroying for the people that continue to see the same thing, and that's sadly on Russell Martin. This isn't a shock. It's not like he wasn't warned on day one. This is the issues in the eyes of the support. He's continued with that. And yeah, look, people can say it's harsh and understand, and it's a very emotive subject when it comes to certain players. I get that. I want to see Rangers win. I'm sick of seeing the same tired performances from people that are miles off and somehow get into this team. Stop the Kieran Dowell stuff. Stop the James Tavernier stuff. Fix your midfield. Fix it. It's not difficult. And if you're going into Tuesday night and you make one change and we get the same again, then the reaction will be the same again because we won't win the match. He has to be brave enough. He spoke a lot about Jeffy. Jeffy is the only one at left back that's looked promising in the 10-15 minutes he had out in Panathinaikos last week. So fix it.
In terms of that squad, as I touched on earlier on, Rangers should have a new signing or could have a new signing on board by then. I'm still waiting to get an announcement time for Oliver Antman, but as we've reported over the weekend, Rangers have agreed that deal, £3 million fee around about there, about €3.5 million for Antman, 4-year contract, option of another. He comes into an area of the squad. Now you talked about Kieran Dowell there. Comes into an area of the squad that Rangers are just so short of options. I think some proper wide players could make a difference. They have to make a difference because, again, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Rangers in the final third create virtually nothing. They don't look threatening. They don't look dangerous. They don't look like providing anything for, no matter whether it's Danilo or Dessers or whoever it's going to be at number 9. They don't look like creating chances for them. I think if you can get Mikey Moore into that squad, I'm still waiting to find out if international clearance has come through or not. And if you can get Antman in that team and get him up and running, I think they make a difference. Are you excited by these two guys coming into the squad and what they can bring?
Yeah, absolutely excited. But the issue is, and I think why it's kind of so flat around it, is people just go, right, okay, Moore and Antman are here, that's fine, still need 4 more. Mm-hmm. And there's a realisation that a left back is desperate, a left centre back is desperate. The midfield, is Asgard going to fix it? That's great, but it still needs something else in there. And what's happening with a forward? So I think that's the issue. Now, if we'd got a result on Saturday, Chris, the attitude towards Antman and Moore and things would be different. But where this is going to be different is Rangers, after going 1-1 against Motherwell on Saturday, were in twice in the closing minutes on the right-hand side. And Nadeem Bayrami was in. And it just shows you that the levels that we're at, because one touch and the shot was away, one touch, we're going for goal, and we faff about, he takes too long, we cut it back, it gets blocked, and it's rinse, repeat. We're sick of this. If that goes to Moore, Ant-Man, Gassama in those positions, and you would see that Gassama, on Saturday, he's going to be one that they're going to need to have bodies in there to rotate and get the best ones on that match and stuff like that. But you would hope that if they boys get into those positions, we will actually see an end product. But it shouldn't have had to wait until 87 minutes until it equalised for us to go and press and push like that. But that's the reason. What's also interesting is to get both of these boys in that European squad, you can make 2 changes, which is great. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to take out 2 non-Scots out of that team. So you would look at it and you'd maybe say, right, let's take out Leon King. You can't do that because they need to be there because of the homegrown quota. So who's coming out of that team? Who's coming out of there? And that's the biggest issue that Russell Martin has maybe got, because you're by Ramis and it should be your likes of Dowell and stuff like that that come out. It should be the likes for likes, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And yes, look, I think Oliver Ant-Man, 15 assists, 6 goals last year in 32 appearances, 21 goal involvements. On paper, fantastic. We need somebody on the right. Mikey Moore coming in should be that. I'm hoping for a kind of Vladimir Weiss kind of, levels from him where he can make that difference off the bench and stuff. And that is exciting. It absolutely is. But the reason we're all not high-fiving and jumping in the air is because, it's like, great, he's here. Who's next? Because the who's next needs to come immediately and it needs to come quickly. Otherwise, the things that we're seeing aren't going to get any better because the balance is all wrong and stuff like that. So this is probably why it's been a lukewarm response to Oliver Ant-Man, and it's a shame on him because I really do. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of him. He's good. He's got that kind of dynamic about him. He's 6'1", I think. He's not a lightweight and stuff like that. So there's a different option there, and it's great. Yeah, absolutely all on board. But there's the other side that's just like, great. He's here. Fantastic. Who's next? And who's next quickly?
A couple of comments, suggestions of who should drop out that squad. You'll not be surprised to see there's one name that's dominating here. Buckshot says Dowell and Igaman to drop out. Scott going with Cortez and Dowell. Another vote there from Andrew for Kieran Dowell. I think he's the obvious one to come out if you're looking at bringing a wide right player into the squad. The guy that's currently in that position has to be the one that drops out. So interesting to see one if Rangers can get those guys in the squad, and also 2 who then drops out. OS19 here asking what time press conference is. Mentioned at the top of the show. A later one today, so it'll be 4:00 for Russell Martin, 1:15 for the player. Both of them also going out live, and you can see them on the YouTube channel and read the full Q&As on the website. Rangers not training until 5:45 this morning, so that's when the pictures and the images of training will come through. Hopefully by that time we will have had an update on Igaman and on Asgard. I know they're big talking points over the last couple of days. And before we go, Stevie, we'll end with a really easy one from Lewis. What's your score prediction for tomorrow? How's Tuesday night going to go?
Tuesday night will go exactly how the other 3 games have gone, unless he makes brave decisions. And he spoke really bravely, and we all welcome that. But actions speak louder than words. He needs to go and action that now and fix it. If he goes the same again, Rangers won't win the game, because we'll see the same thing. It's all right saying you need to run harder and you need to do things better and everything else, but that side are visibly uncomfortable the way it's set up at the moment. So if he goes the same again with the same players and the same people, we will get the same results. If he fixes it, and by the way, I don't care if Ant-Man knows Danilo's name or Ant-Man knows where Raskin plays and everything else. See if he's fit, get him in that right-hand side immediately, get Mikey Moore ready to come on and have a go. This is a home game. I want to see this attacking, dominating football that we've been promised. So make it work. Be brave on the ball. If it's the same as Saturday, then forget it. If he's brave enough to make the changes that are needed, you will get that atmosphere lifted from the fan base as well. If the fans see the same selection, it will be negative from the word go. So he needs to be really careful in what he's doing. Score prediction, Rangers can win this game. They absolutely can win this game. But it's probably going to be harder than Panathinaikos because Victoria are more clinical.
Mhm.
And if we give them those chances, we won't survive that as well as we have done before. So yeah, I won't give you a score prediction. I will say that Rangers can win this game if he's willing to change it and make different selections. And I'll reiterate what I said: get James Tavernier out of that defence immediately. Put JFD in at left back and make the balance better. Fix Raskin and Diamandi. One of them comes out and they put anybody else in. I can see that. Start Ant-Man. These are changes that I would be making straight away and quickly. So yeah, it's all right for me, Football Manager-esque, saying whatever I want, but these are things that people were saying on Saturday that should happen. And Russell Martin's made a rod for his back now by his comments. So I've got a feeling that the comments were aimed towards people, Chris, that we don't want them to be aimed at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest issue. The changes you might see are more likely to be ones that we think, what is that all about, rather than these are the obvious ones. But until he does them changes, I just think that we will look as lopsided and as uncomfortable as we have done in the opening games.
A very interesting 36 hours ahead, as always, in the world of Rangers.
Hey, hold on. You're not shirking responsibility here. How do you see it going?
I'll be back on the show at some point tomorrow, so I'm going to wait until I see a Russell Martin press conference and see what the mood in the camp is like. But so I'll be back on. I don't know if we're back on later on after the press conference or not, but we'll certainly be back also tomorrow morning. I think Josh is back in the driving seat tomorrow, and we'll also be on live from Ibrox tomorrow night as well. So plenty of time for me to give a predicted lineup and a predicted score. So now we'll see how the next 24 hours go before I get too involved. But like you, I think Rangers can win the game. They should win the game. Will they win the game? Like you, I agree with a lot of what you said over the last half hour. They will make, if the changes are not there, it will be the same level of performance, and it becomes 50-50 whether they win the game or not. So time will tell. But as I said, full press conference coverage on the show later on. 4 o'clock start, so we will be hopefully on the YouTube channel with a full press conference video. You'll have the full Q&A on the website as well. And of course, as I forgot to do at the top of the show, I have to give a shout out to our sponsors at Willows Fencing. That's me banned from being the man on this side of the screen because I forgot to do that at the top of the show. So of course, go and check out Willows Fencing if you have any garden needs. Considering the weather today and how the storm might blow through, people may be looking for some new garden renovations and some new fencing. So of course, keep those guys in mind if that is indeed the case. So on that note, we will bid you all farewell and we will catch you soon. Thank you.